Welcome everyone to the May 27th, 2010 Franklin Municipal Planning Commission. Appreciate everybody being here. We'll start by a motion for the minutes for the April meeting.
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. All right, ladies and gentlemen in the audience, if there is any items that are not on the agenda tonight, this is your moment to come up and speak to the Planning Commission. Again, for items that are not on the agenda, if you'd like to come up and give us any thoughts you've got, we'd be glad to hear. All right, I see none, and we'll move on to the announcements. Catherine?
Staff has no announcements.
Okay, all right, then we will not have any announcements, and we'll move on to, are there any items that anyone wants to add to the agenda that are currently not on the agenda? All right, I see none of those. Then we'll move on to the consent agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, staff and commissioners, we have changed the agendas up a little bit. We've got an initial consent agenda and a secondary consent agenda, mainly because of the items that I have to recuse myself from, so we're splitting those out. The initial consent agenda, what I'd like to do, we've been asked to pull items number 11 and also to add items 25, 26, and 29 as deferral to next month's meeting.
I would make the motion to...
Hold on one second. Hold on one second. Is there anybody in the audience or staff or on the commission that want to pull any other items off consent? All right, I see none, then I will entertain a motion.
Then I will make the motion to pull items 25, 26, and 29 for the purpose of deferral until the next regular scheduled meeting, and the applicants are aware of this and are in agreement with this.
Did you also say 11? Pull item number 11 off the
11.
consent? Okay.
And pull 11 off of consent.
11 would be off consent.
Off
That's
consent.
correct.
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Let me repeat the numbers so that we're all on the same page. That's consent agenda items tonight, either consent or deferral, will be items 7 through 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 30, 31, 33, 37, 38, and then for deferral, 25, 26, and 29. All right, all in favor of the consent agenda is motioned and seconded, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. We move to the secondary consent agenda items, and I will defer to Roger to vote on those because I am recusing myself for those 5 items.
So the secondary consent agenda then includes items 23, 24, 32, 33, and 34. Do I have a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on any of those items? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
All right, thank you, Roger. All right, let's move to item number 11, Paula.
And
I'm sorry.
sure
One
it's
second.
not, I'm sure I'm just the only one that's, but we've got 33 on the consent agenda here.
That's correct.
And there's
We got
on the-
33 to
on the initial.
pull it off here.
That
We've
would
already
appear twice.
approved 33 as being a consent agenda item.
And then we're doing the secondary.
We're still trying to work the bugs out of the secondary consent and the
Right.
initial consent.
So it's approved.
Okay,
It's been consented for.
That'd be double consent.
Yeah.
It's really a consent.
it's a good catch, though. All right, let's go to item number 11. That would be the Carlisle PUD subdivision. Paula?
Mr. Chairman, I requested that this be pulled from the agenda. There's been a small item that's arisen since staff reports were completed, and I would like to revise the staff recommendation. And actually, what I'd like to do is roll back to the recommendation that was accepted at the April 22nd, 2010 Planning Commission meeting, which extends the performance agreement to April 28th, 2011.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that wants to speak to this item? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion?
Well, let me ask you, would we just have no motion on it because we've already
It's already been done.
extended to?
Well, staff reports were prepared with a recommendation to release performance, and so what I'm doing now is withdrawing that.
So we basically.
And I have to do something with it because of the type of item it is, so I'd like to go back to the original extension,
So basically just be withdrawing 11 because,
pretty much.
okay. Yeah.
That's right.
So I move that we withdraw item 11, or will we table it? Will we withdraw it? What's the proper?
Well, I think what we're really doing is we're actually changing staff recommendation.
But already we've agreed.
We already have, actually, yes.
Okay.
It's cleaner to have a new since we had a different recommendation come out.
Right.
So the motion probably should be to continue with staff's original recommendation of April 2010.
Correct.
Which was already voted on. Okay.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
David seconded. Don't ask me to repeat that. All right. Is there any discussion about that? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. All right, if I have my counts right, then we are on item number 27, which is ordinance 2010-39, to be entitled an ordinance to rezone 106.15 acres from a state residential ER to civic and institutional CI for the property located at 111 Daniel McMahon Lane.
Mr. Chairman, the applicant is requesting to rezone this property from a state residential to civic institutional in order to construct a church on the property. As most of you know, the next item on the agenda is the concept plan for this church, and we'll discuss the items involving the concept plan next. Staff recommends approval with conditions.
Okay?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes,
I'd
sir.
like to say at this time that I'm an active member of this church, and neither myself or my family received any monetary compensation from the church, and I'll be voting on this item.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience other than the applicant that wants to speak to this item? Okay, seeing none, then is there someone representing the applicant?
Yes, sir. Jeff Hoover with Lawrence Kaufman and Associates. We are in agreement with the comments and the conditions placed on the rezoning, so we're requesting your approval tonight.
Good, great, thank you. Is there a motion?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Is it you, Scott, that seconded?
Michael.
Oh, Michael, I'm sorry. All right, moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Item number 28, resolution approving a concept plan for Franklin First United Methodist Church totaling 106.15 acres located at 111 Daniel McMahon Lane by the city of Franklin, Tennessee.
Mr. Chairman, the concept plan for this development proposes a maximum of 200,000 non-residential square footage for the First United Methodist Church of Franklin. There are two recommendations in the land use plan regarding this site. The first is regarding a street that will connect Franklin Road to Hillsborough Road and have some type of connection to Mac Hatcher. At this point in time, staff has agreed that probably the best recommendation for this site would be for the applicant to reserve a portion along the western side of the site as potential right-of-way if the city ever decides to develop a road through the property. And the applicant has agreed and shown that in the concept plan. The other land use plan recommendation is in regards to a greenway along the southern boundary of Spencer Creek. The applicant has shown a greenway in this vicinity. However, there is a condition regarding that greenway and the actual details and location of it, and that's condition number 4. Staff recommends approval with conditions.
Okay, thank you. Again, anyone in the audience other than the applicant want to speak to this item? Okay, seeing none, is there someone representing the applicant?
Mr. Chairman, once again, I must state the same issues that I'm a member of this church actively, and will be voting on this item.
So in a full 2 minutes, you did not leave the church?
That's correct.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, Jeff Hooper with Lawrence Kaufman and Associates. We have reviewed all the conditions and are in agreement with all those conditions. However, we would like to discuss condition number 4, which is the Greenway condition. The church understands the master plan for the Greenway and accepts that there will be an easement across the property south of Spencer Creek. What we would like to do at this time is request that that final location can still be determined with the regulating plan versus a specific location with the concept plan. So if that's acceptable to the Planning Commission, we would like that as part of the recommendation.
So how would you like to adjust that condition number 4 then? Just to modify it such that it's flexible location?
That we can still continue to discuss the actual final location and details of the Greenway with the next step, the regulating plan. We also understand that may come back as a condition of the regulating plan if it so be, where the staff determines that it needs to go. But I think we need to go out in the field and actually field verify where the best location of the Greenway would go across the property.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, staff will agree with that. Just, we would like the Planning Commission to be aware that staff would really like to see the Greenway along Spencer Creek because the creek provides such an amenity for the people who could possibly be using this path. But we would be okay with actually determining the location at the regulating plan.
Okay. All right, is there a motion then from the commission?
Motion to approve.
Is that with revised staff recommendations? Okay. It's moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Thank you.
All right, we move on to...
I'm sorry, was that just the amendment there, or the entire?
No, that's
It was the entire, it was a revised
I'm
motion.
sorry. I wanted to ask a question. I didn't understand. I thought we were going with the amendment right there.
No, that was a revised motion.
Okay. Well, can I still ask a question? And that is, the information that you have here, is that the topography as is, or what it would be whenever you work with it?
That is actually existing topography.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right, item number 35, ordinance 2010-41, ordinance to approve a special permit for Gallery 202 for the purpose of operating an art gallery used as a private recreational facility on .39 acres located at 202 2nd Avenue South by the city of Franklin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. This item, again, as you mentioned, is a request for a special permit in the OR zoning district to operate an art gallery. As part of the ordinance, staff has placed several conditions on that special permit, and they mirror really what was granted for the CJ's Off the Square special permit. There's hour limitations, limitations on the amount of retail that can take place on the property, and also going through the building plan review process, there may be some requirements that need to be met through that process. Staff recommends favorable recommendation of this ordinance onto the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
All right, thank you. Other than the applicant, anybody in the audience that wants to speak to this item? Okay, I see none. Is it someone representing the applicant?
I am Kelly Harwood, property owner.
Okay.
I just wanted to show it to make sure everything went smooth, to be honest with you. I'm very excited about it.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Well, what is assembly of occupancy? I mean, this is more to the staff than to you.
Okay.
As far as I understand it, the building plan review process, there are certain classifications of uses in the private recreational. Tom Marsh can probably help me.
Yes. I actually might ask the chairman to answer that question. But correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, but per the International Building Code, there are several use occupancy classifications for a building: residential, business, mercantile, assembly occupancy. And in the staff evaluation of their proposal for an art gallery, we've determined to classify that as an assembly occupancy. And assembly occupancy includes churches, restaurants, art galleries, and so on. The movie theater.
Okay. I just hadn't seen that one before.
It's a building thing. It's a building code issue that'll come into play as they get to actual floor plan layouts and so on.
Okay, any other comments, discussion?
I was just interested in, is the art gallery, you're selling art as well?
Yes.
How is that not a retail sales? How is that, why does it need a special use permit? Why can't it just be a retail sale?
Retail sales are not permitted in that zoning district.
Okay.
So the actual retail, our understanding of what we've heard so far is that it's a gallery for exhibits that they will also sell. So their principal use is not necessarily retail. It's also a museum type operation. That's why there's also a proposed limitation on the, even though essentially any art there could probably be sold, there's a limit if there's a, a floor area limitation on a designated retail sales area. Or retail is not permitted use there.
All right, any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Item 36, ordinance 2010-40, an ordinance to amend section 14-202 of the Franklin Municipal Code relative to applications, permits, inspections, and fees for the inspection and re-inspections for the planning review process.
Mr. Chairman, the city staff has spent a lot of time putting together and surveying other communities in regards to the amount of money that we collect in fees every year. As we looked at other communities, we saw that we were significantly below those fees produced by other communities. And the major thing that happened is that we are not covering the cost of all of the aspects of planning. So the staff is requesting that we increase the fees per the schedule found in Exhibit 1 at the bottom of the page. Now, some of the things that we took into consideration when we looked at this, and we were asked to look at the overall cost of development within the city of Franklin. And we have done that in the Exhibit 4. And what we find is that for final plats and site plans, if this increase in fees would only be $100 more than what is currently taking place when considering road impact fees and facility fees as well. However, we also are interested in letting you know that those fees, those development fees, are physical fees, they're construction fees. What we are talking about increasing are the fees of the cost of staff time. If the developer doesn't pay those fees that cover the cost of staff time, then they're really subsidized by the city. And that is a situation that although the requested fees will not completely cover those fees that we take to go through the processes, they will make a substantial increase in where we are currently today, which is really very low compared to some of our neighbors. So we are asking that these fees be recommended to the Board of Aldermen. This would be a simple recommendation for this ordinance in order to cover our staff time and to cover the activities of a more complex review process. In addition to that, we especially want you to look at the Board of Zoning Appeals. Right now, that Board of Zoning Appeals is only $50. We have 5 to 6 staff people at any given board meeting, plus we have an attorney there. Obviously, that $50 doesn't even begin to cover the cost of just having somebody at the meeting, much less all of the preparation work that goes into those meetings. So it's particularly important that the Board of Zoning Appeals is increased, but we would like to increase all of them due to the complexity of our regulations, due to the amount of staff time it takes to get through that complexity, and due to the fact that we are much lower than our neighbors.
Okay. All right, I would normally say anybody in the audience wants to speak to this, but it looks like it's just staff. And I can't imagine what they would say. So, we will throw it to the commission for a motion.
I move that we recommend this to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
Second. Okay. Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
One question. When you talk about neighbors, who are they?
Okay, we had a list of...
Who did we survey?
We did look at Murfreesboro, and it is on there.
Murfreesboro, Smyrna.
It's Exhibit 1.
At the top above it.
Okay.
There you go. There you go. You got it.
We looked at Murfreesboro, Smyrna, and then we looked at some communities outside of our area that were high-quality communities that we would like to emulate and compare ourselves with. But the ones that we looked at in this area are Murfreesboro and Smyrna, and we were lower than both of them in all categories.
My only thought on this was that in establishing our zoning ordinance, we created a concept plan and a regulating plan, separated those out from each other as a tool to allow developers to establish kind of the intention of where they were headed, and then take that to the financing institutions so they could get that in place, and then they could come back with the regulating plan. And before, or currently as it is today, there are no additional fees for regulating plan versus concept plan. You pay for the concept plan, and then the regulating plan comes in at a future date, I believe, without a
cost.
fee.
Right.
Am I not right?
No.
A regulating plan has a fee.
It does.
A concept plan has,
Oh,
everything
it
has a
does?
specific.
What is the?
Yeah, because it's not listed.
Exhibit 1.
It's exhibit
Page
one.
8 shows that.
It says NA, doesn't it?
It says an A.
That's the average. There's not really a lot of regulating plans. but
Right.
So you couldn't factor that into this spreadsheet, is what I was looking at
Yeah,
now.
and it's
So
very
this way.
difficult to do fee comparisons because each community is very
So the regulating-
specific.
How much do we charge now, though, for regulating plan?
No, it's changed.
It's $100 plus 2 cents per square foot for non-residential, or $10 per dwelling unit. And we're asking that it go to $300 plus 2 cents per square foot, or $10 per dwelling unit.
I'm clear, I just read that wrong.
Yeah. And the regulating plan is a very complicated, complex part of the process, and takes a lot of not just planning staff time, but other staff time as well.
So we're adding 200 to that.
And the one that I probably, the comparables really don't show, I mean, that are a little skewed, would be the rezoning concept plan, and they show the average to be $1,405, and that's really hit up really high because of two others, but they're not asking for that. They're asking
No.
to change from $250 to $400.
Right.
We're just
That's the
asking
only one that I felt like the
We're just
comparables
asking to
didn't
get
work.
closer to covering our costs. We're not asking to get in the same category that maybe
Right.
Naperville or Castle Rock are.
Okay. All right, any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Any other items, Catherine? Anybody else? Okay, then all in favor of
Move for adjournment.
adjournment, thank you.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. You're adjourned.
All right.